Welcome to video 11 in the Aspiring Flutists Epic Inspiration course. This video is all about the art of phrasing, how to go about it, how to be more comfortable with it. I like to keep in mind what Itzhak said. Every musical phrase has a purpose. It's like talking. If you talk with purpose, people will listen. If you just recite, it's not as meaningful. He is so right. When you play gorgeous, elegant phrases in your flute repertoire, your audience can receive the music so much more effectively. And as you practice, if you invest in the art of phrasing, you're going to feel so much more satisfied with your musical experiences along the way too. I can't wait to share with you my magical phrasing formula in this video, S.I.N.G.E.R. I will explain what every letter of the acronym means, and hopefully you'll be able to use it every single time you want to practice a beautiful, elegant phrase. Okay, it's true confession time. When I was a music student in high school and college, there were so many times I had no earthly idea what the professor was talking about. Whether it was a conductor or a flute professor, when they talked about things like shapes, I probably smiled and nodded and tried to act like I knew what was happening, but for the longest time, I didn't catch what musical shapes were. Imagine my surprise when it dawned on me, oh, shapes like a rising line or even a rainbow, things that sound circular or maybe jagged, literal shapes. It was the same thing when it came to phrasing. I heard teachers talking about the long line, and I heard teachers saying, oh, a musical phrase is like a musical sentence, but it still kind of seemed mysterious and like they had this secret knowledge of where the phrases began and ended, what were the destination notes. It all seemed inaccessible to me. And it might have been because I have always loved music, I've always had a good ear, and I was playing with heart. So it might have sounded like I understood phrasing, I'm not sure. But I have a feeling that I'm not alone and that a lot of young music students might not even know what the word means. So no matter what level you are, if you are a 7th grade flutist, if you are majoring in music, even if you're a professional, don't worry if you have a question mark in your brain where the art of phrasing is going to replace it soon. It's okay. We can start together, and I'd like to just share with you the way that phrasing makes sense to me and the way I teach it to my students today. Remember, the secret sweet spots can only be found through listening in the world of sound. So even though I'm about to explain my magical phrasing formula to you, and I'm going to show you lots of specific examples visually from the flute part of the 4A fantasy, remember that even though we're using our intellect to talk about phrasing, when you practice, you're going to be walking around the room in the world of sound, listening for every element of this acronym. S is for sneak in. It's just that first microsecond so that you don't tongue too hard or have an inelegant entrance. So you just listen for that first slice of sound to be nice and clear. I is for immediately blossom. Remember that time-lapse photography of a rosebud blossoming into the full flower? After that first microsecond of sneaking in for elegant tonguing, then you're going to immediately blossom your sound. N is for never stop spinning. As flutists, that's our job, is to spin out gorgeous long lines in midair. G is for go to your destination notes. And again, I'm going to give you lots of examples of what this could look like, but you're still going to stay in the world of sound to listen as you travel to your destination notes. Always go to them. Then E is for enjoy the rise, fall, and in-betweens. So the rise, as you often will climb to your destination note, that's a journey, and you want to take the audience along with you. The fall, that needs to have an elegant descent. We're going to talk about vocal principles and how they can help you to have an elegant fall. Then the in-betweens. So often flutists get stuck on long notes and they don't realize that they can actually lead with the long notes. So you've got to enjoy the in-betweens, and I'm going to give you some specific ways to do that. And then R is for release beautifully. You want the tail end of your phrase to be just as artistic and meaningful as the beginning and the destination notes. So without further ado, let's dive into the rest of the video, and I'll explain each part of this acronym and how it applies to you and your practicing. Before we look at our first phrasing example here at the beginning of the Foray Fantasy for flute and piano, I want to talk about why we're in the sfumato section, the tension of opposites section. And that's because I want you to get comfy with a couple of opposites before we look at our phrasing formula. One, there is an art to phrasing, and that's because there are unlimited possibilities with nuance, inflection, and expression. But on the other hand, an opposite thought is that phrasing is actually quite simple and based on simple shapes. Couple more opposites. I'm going to show you a way to find the shapes and follow the shapes, but often those shapes come in other versions. So you want to be really open-minded and flexible even in the way you look at and practice and think about shapes. Here's a mantra for you to help you find the shapes and practice the shapes before, during, and after using the magic phrasing formula, S.I.N.G.E.R. The mantra is follow the rainbow. You can remember it if you think of Wizard of Oz, follow the yellow brick road, and also somewhere over the rainbow. If you combine them, you get follow the rainbow. And this mantra is so helpful because as flutists, our job is the rainbow. If you look at our music, you're going to see these long rainbow-shaped slurs all over the place. A lot of times we have crescendo, decrescendo, hairpin shapes. And even when we don't have those dynamics written, a lot of times the rise and fall of our phrases, it is like there are hairpins, even if the composer didn't indicate them. So the rainbow shapes are just everywhere in flute music. And because we are a soprano voice singing out as the highest voice in the orchestra or band, or singing out usually above a rich piano harmony, riding the rainbow, following the rainbow, that's our job. So variations on the rainbow theme can be found here at the beginning of the foray. If you look at measure 3 and 4, you see a rainbow-shaped slur. However, if you look at the shape of the pitches, starting with the long B natural tie, our entrance, we travel down to a B in the staff, then turn around and come back up. So I would call that an upside down rainbow. After the A, there's another upside down rainbow. Now look, line 2, measure 3, starting on that second dotted quarter note E, we're gonna climb up, 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 up to the high E's, peak, and then come back down the rainbow to the long F sharp. There are lots of little mini rainbows next, a couple bigger rainbows. Rainbows are the way to go when you're looking for your phrase shapes. Now let's get to our acronym, S.I.N.G.E.R. S is for sneak in. And since Foray wrote piano, and this is such a gorgeous, intimate, slightly mysterious, very heartfelt opening, the sneak in is more important than ever. So I'm going to practice the takeaway game to make sure that my tonguing on the B natural is clear, yes, but not explosive, not aggressive, not the start of the pitch, just the decoration right at the beginning of the pitch. You could use a T or a P for your consonant. You could even try no tonguing and just create the illusion of tonguing. I is for immediately blossom. Now, it's a little hard to do that when you're going from not playing to trying to play with a blossomed spinning vibrato. It's like you got to go from your vibrato switch being off to turning it on, and that takes a lot of energy, which can sometimes accidentally be tension inducing. So I'm going to do two things to help me just blossom my sound, spin my vibrato without adding tension or feeling like I have to turn that vibrato switch on. I'm gonna do something that's very imagination based. It's not literal, but I feel like it's real. I'm gonna breathe with vibrato. Then I'm gonna practice expressively subdividing the tie and letting my vibrato increase across the subdivision. So 6/8 notes plus another for the tie. I'll do it once more. That really helps me map out the immediately blossom part of the acronym. N is for never stop spinning, and G is for go to your destination notes, but we're going to talk about that next. Let's move on to the N-G-E-R parts of the acronym for the magic phrasing formula. N and G, never stop spinning, and go to your destination notes are intimately related. If you go to your destination notes, that helps you to never stop spinning. Now, I'm going to give you some basics for how to find your destination notes, but I want you to do lots of experiments and collect your clues from beautiful professional recordings of your repertoire. So the basics: look for the highest and lowest notes in a phrase, look for any long notes, and also look for any interesting notes, whether it's based on the harmony or just simply because this pitch is different from the others around it. Those are great places to start. But then when you listen to your beautiful professional recordings, listen carefully to the nuances, the inflections. Where are there arrival points? Where are there mini destination notes? I have an assignment for you. I'd like you to go to YouTube or Spotify, wherever you listen to your music, and listen to James Galway, Emmanuel Paoud, and Amy Porter all perform the Foray Fantasy. Especially at the beginning, notice where are their destination notes? What pitches do they emphasize? Where are their mini destination notes? Now, if you listen to all three of them, you're going to be very inspired. And you'll notice that they all do S-I-N. They all have elegant beginnings. They all immediately blossom their sound, and they all never stop spinning their beautiful phrases in midair. But the G, the go to their destination notes, that's a little different in each performance, different interpretations, different focal points where they emphasize things. You can learn a lot just from comparing the three recordings. Now the E, enjoy the rise, fall, and in-betweens. That comes from expressive subdividing, some wonderful practice games that I'm going to show you soon, and also being willing to listen through the ears of the audience. Try to imagine what it's like listening to the Foray Fantasy in the audience, not looking at the sheet music. Sometimes we can get distracted by the black notes on the white paper, or they might be on your iPad, but the visual can be distracting and it takes us out of the world of sound. So I'm going to play the opening of the Fourier, and I want you to listen for my destination notes. Notice how I never stop spinning. Notice how I enjoy the rise and fall. And R, notice hopefully how I release beautifully, whether it's a rhythmic catch breath that has energy going to the next mini phrase, or the very end where there's a little mini taper on the low E. I hope the details make sense to you as you listen. Now, if you know this piece, you know that the next section is another elaborate phrase full of mini phrases that dovetail one into the next and the next, but it's a decorated version of this opening. I hope that S.I.N.G.E.R already is beginning to make sense to you, but let's look at some other ways to smooth out your phrases, follow the rainbow, and just be more comfortable with participating in your ever-evolving quest to understand the art of phrasing. Here are a couple of ways to practice your phrasing using models and bridges. First thing I'm going to do is take away the 16th note passages. They're a little bit more like decorative passage work and less like the sing-alongable part of the melody. I want to get down to the simple rainbow shape. Now, disclaimer, I think everything is melody, and the 16th notes should also be practiced for lyricism and expression, but I am going to enjoy practicing just the simpler shape. Here is the section you see on the screen from the Allegro in the Fourier Fantasy without the 16th notes. Now, before I show you a bridge step you could try, I want to show you another method of models and bridges that can really bring the sing-alongable parts of the melody to life. You can add words. Now, when you add words, you can make them as simple and cheesy or as profound and elaborate as you like. I'm going to show you a lengthier example later in the video. But for now, here's just some cute little words I thought of. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Hello, I am good. What shall we do? If I sing it and play it, sing it and play it, it's going to feel more like I'm a singer when I return to the flute version. Now we can add a bridge step. I'm going to choose to only play the downbeats of the 16th notes, just the first of every group of 4, but still really connect to that sing-alongable part of the melody and keep the 16th notes in the same character, just the downbeats this time for the bridge step. You could add in the upbeats, so downbeats and upbeats. You could do the backwards game and just start filling in from the last group of 16th notes all the way until you have them all filled in. There are so many ways to do models and bridges. Be creative and design some practice experiences for yourself. Talk about a classic rainbow shape. This glorious melody from the Allegro of the Four Fantasy is the perfect phrasing example for S.I.N.G.E.R and a variety of other practice games you can try to help smooth out and sculpt your phrases. I love singing and playing, fluttering, air flute. Right now I'm going to show you hissing the phrase. So I'm hissing right into the tone hole. That really gives me a sense of following the rainbow or riding the roller coaster. When I play the as written version, I'm going to mimic the path of air I just choreographed. Another practice method you can use is chromatic fill-ins. You can add half-step bridges in between the written pitches to help you enjoy the rise, fall, and in-betweens. And since I skipped one, the E to the B, I'm going to do a chromatic fill-in up and down just to make sure I shine the light of attention on that one. Another practice method you can use to smooth out your shapes, enjoy the rise, fall, and in-betweens are ascending, descending loops. Now this is going to help you choreograph your air with a little bit different perspective because we're going to put the pitches in order. So if you take all the pitches in the phrase you see here, from lowest to highest, we'll have E, G, A, B, C, plus a C sharp, D, E, F, G, A. So it's almost like a scale. I'm going to play it up and down and pay special attention to the smooth sound and feel the choreographing of the air. Playing the ascending, descending loop many times will help me study the air path and fit the pitches in when I go back to the as written version. So we always need to get in our repetitions, and I hope you'll use this variety of methods to smooth and sculpt your phrases as a way to make the repetitions more interesting, fun, and productive. Micro steps have ripple effects, and taking the time to read about phrasing can make a huge difference in your understanding. Here is my well-loved copy of Kincadiana, and I want to turn to my favorite page with the dancers. If you've got a rhythm that doesn't have something on the next downbeat, it's like the dancer's foot ends up in the air in a questioning gesture. If you do have something on the next downbeat, it's like your dancer arrives there. I love the illustrations in this book. I love thinking of the musical phrase in a physical, real-life way. I often imagine American Ninja Warriors, Cirque du Soleil dancers, life-size chess match Harry Potter, it's like you're the person, you're standing right there, and then you're traveling, riding the roller coaster, following the rainbow, choreographing the air. Any imagery that helps you to bring your phrases to life is very much worth it. By the way, cannot recommend highly enough that you get your own copy of Kincadiana. So much good advice in here. And it's out of print on Amazon, but if you go to Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company at www.fluteforyou.com, you can grab a copy of this for $16. Beyond worth it. Perfectionist trap alert. If you're obsessed with playing strong sounds, core-filled sounds, or proving that you're working hard by blowing lots of air, or kind of stuck thinking that since the composer didn't write any additional dynamic indications, you're just supposed to play loud the entire time, I have news for you. That kind of weird thinking is not very artistic, and it's going to get in the way of beautiful phrasing. So try this user-friendly tool. The phrase "go to here." Just like when you add words to your music, it can bring things to life. If you look at this glorious phrase that we just studied from the foray, you can use "go to here" over and over again. Now go to here, now I'm going to here, now I'm going to here, now I'll go here. Go to here can help you include the lovely little Kincadiana dancer in your practicing and performing. It'll help you have a sense of forward motion, rise and fall, and get you out of those weird old thoughts that don't really apply to beautiful phrasing. As a flutist, it's always a great idea to strive to sound like a singer. In fact, we flutists are singers. It's just this fancy silver tube that we play that makes us sound like flutists. Now, if you want to play a beautiful phrase like a singer would sing it, it's a great idea to know a little something about vocal principles. A singer could navigate stepwise motion much more easily. So as a flutist, it makes sense to flow right through. However, a singer would definitely take more expressive time during jumps. It's strange, we're almost like super sopranos as flutists. The mechanism of our instrument makes it too easy to play jumps. So to sound more like a singer, take special time with jumps and larger intervals. Another way we can sound more like singers is to shape our phrases smoothly, uninterrupted by the quirks of our instrument, like a pitch accidentally zinging out louder than we meant it to and obscuring the rainbow shape. When you look at all the mini crescendos and decrescendos I've added to these two phrases from the Foray Fantasy, don't mistake them for lots of micromanaged fluctuations. Not at all. They are just there to demonstrate that pitches traveling down the rainbow should not be randomly louder than the peak or destination high note. Likewise, pitches traveling up the rainbow should organically lead to the peak or destination high note. When playing with smooth air and following the rainbow, these little crescendos and decrescendos happen quite naturally and curve in a beautifully shaped and elegant way. I've always loved the tip that if the notes were the pearls, your air is the necklace. But I love this bonus tip even more for phrasing. Imagine that your air is the perfect thickness of peanut butter, or Nutella being evenly spread on toast. It might just help your phrases sound deliciously elegant. I want to encourage you to be creative radically flexible. Use your imagination as you're working on your phrasing. You already know, I think adding words to your music can bring it to life, specifically the phrasing, because it will seem more like you're talking to your audience, more like you're singing to them. You can use existing poetry or lyrics. You can make up your own stories, anything you like. By the way, if you use something that someone else already wrote, you can just adapt the syllables to fit what you need in your music. I went to ChatGPT and asked it to write me a 19-syllable poem about inner peace, because this gorgeous last line, this last moment right before the allegro in the Fauré fantasy, it reminds me of inner peace. After this epic personal journey with all these highs and lows, there's this sense of calm. So this 19-syllable poem is going to fit the 19 pitches here, and I can practice the rhythm, the pacing, even the baby poco poco rallentando at the end that flutists tend to do. Stillness wraps the mind in warmth, whispered moments of calm unfold, breathing deep, the soul finds rest. Now, it wasn't a human being that wrote this poem, but that little phrase, the soul finds rest, really helps me to connect with that moment in the Fauré. So like I said, be creative, be radically flexible, use your imagination, use your resources, and bring your phrases to life. The thicker the myelin, the faster the connection. If you want to perform with gorgeous, elegant, singing, soaring phrases, you need to practice them. And I'd like to recommend that the way you practice them is more meaningful. Try memorizing one phrase at a time. You don't have to perform from memory, and you don't even have to memorize big sections, but memorize just one phrase and walk around the room playing it so many times. Put infinity repeats on it. Engage in the practice potter's wheel. As you listen and learn, the phrasing formula is going to make more and more sense. Remember, when we program things into our muscle memory, when we increase the thickness of those myelin sheaths, thereby making the connections in our mind faster, we're not just programming in the technical aspects of the music, we're also programming in the mental and emotional states we were in as we practiced. So as you're doing your infinity repeats, as you are engaging in the practice potter's wheel, playing one phrase at a time from memory, play those phrases from love, not fear. Play them from a sense of love for the Fauré fantasy or whatever piece you're practicing, a sense of love for the flute or just music itself. When you are engaging in myelination, thickening those myelin sheaths and thereby making the connection in your mind faster, program in all the good stuff about phrasing in the context of love-based phrasing decisions. Remember the sfumato section from the beginning of this video? On the one hand, there is an art to phrasing. On the other, it's just about simple shapes and playing beautiful music. I hope the magic phrasing formula and this video are helpful to you, but please don't use any of the details to induce busy brain. If I was given the choice between you executing a perfectly busy-brained version of the S.I.N.G.E.R formula or just throwing caution to the wind and playing your heart out in sing-along surrender, I think you know which one I would choose.